So, welcome everyone to our workshop with Hubspot called Navigating the Irish Job Market. I'm very excited to be here today. The last time we did this, I was unavailable, so I'm very sorry that I missed that. So I'm sure we're going to learn a lot today. Just before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone that as all of our workshops, this session is being recorded and we're going to upload the recording to our YouTube channel and share it with those who couldn't make it. So if you don't want to be in the recording, just turn off your cameras during the presentation. We will turn off the recording during the Q&A, so your questions won't show up at the video. So welcome everyone. I think most of you know me. My name is Talita. I'm a program manager at the Open Doors Initiative. This is one of our workshops as part of our Job Ready program, which is aimed at supporting migrants and refugees here in Ireland who are looking for a job. This workshop specifically is about how to navigate the Irish job market, and we have two amazing speakers, Nadine and Innocent. So I'm not going to take any more time because I know that I've already spoke too much and they have a lot to cover. So Nadine, maybe you want to get started.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. An absolute pleasure to be here again and be part of this amazing initiative. So, hey, everyone. It's with great honor that we are here today discussing the Irish job market and what are some of the things to keep in mind while looking for a new job. My name is Nadine Souza, and I'm a CS recruiter here at Hubspot for almost 2 years now. I'm originally from Portugal, and I moved to Ireland 7 years ago with no idea on how to look for jobs, where to search, how to prepare for interviews, or even how to be prepared for this weather, right? So my first job was a customer service role, and then with time, I completed a diploma in HR and recruitment in the Dublin Business School. And that's exactly where I made my decision to go into recruitment. What I have been most passionate about since I started in this area is really helping others to see their true potential and their value, and also provide my best advice on how to successfully get a job here in Ireland, which is exactly what me and Innocent will be talking about today. Right, Innocent?
Correct. Thank you so much, everybody. Very good morning to you all. And I would love to just echo what Nadine has said. It is a pleasure to be back here again. We did this a few months ago, and honestly, I had the best time just getting to, know everybody, get to speak to everybody. And you'll know why in a few minutes as well. I'm really passionate just with speaking with candidates in general. So before I kind of get into that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Innocent Matthew. I've actually this is a two for two. So I'm a sales recruiter, and I call this a two for two because I will be with HubSpot for 2 years in just about 2 days. So the 4th of October will make it 2 years for myself. And honestly, I've had one of the best journeys joining HubSpot, on arguably one of the best decisions I've ever had to make. So really, really proud of that. Little bit of a background about myself. I'm from South Africa. I'm South African born. However, I am a son of a South African and a Zimbabwean. So what that means is I've lived in both countries. So for anybody that may or may not be from South Africa, I'd love to greet everybody. It's great to see you. So one of the things that I'm really passionate about, as I've spoken before, is really just about improving candidate experience. I really want to make sure that I'm taking everybody, to make sure that they basically have the best eligible profile, to honestly give them their best interview. I've been in a situation where, I've applied for jobs and I've gotten nowhere. And then I've also been stuck in the time loop that is, you can't get a job because you have no experience, and therefore you have no experience, and therefore you can't get a job. So really hoping that I can, help turn that around a little bit. So hopefully the next couple of tips are going to be essential and helpful. So Nadine, do you want to maybe talk everybody through what the agenda is going to cover today?
Yeah, definitely. So today we are going to touch in a lot of good topics here. We'll let you know exactly how to write the CV and the cover letter, if the cover letter is important or not, in our opinion as well. We're going to talk about where to find good job opportunities. We're going to give you tips on how to expand your professional network, what a recruitment process looks like usually, and we'll do a recap on the main themes, and we'll give you a few minutes for questions at the end. But before all that, you might be wondering, who do we actually work for, right? What is HubSpot? So Innocent, do you want to give them a quick overview of what HubSpot is?
100%, 100%. So, a lot of us may or may not know who we are, but we are basically a company that sells a wonderful platform known as a CRM platform, or customer relationship management tool, for anybody that doesn't know. So, as the name suggests, a CRM software is a system that helps you to manage your relationships with your customers. The main goal of this platform itself is to essentially help businesses to grow better. And therefore, we have a strategic product that basically aligns with different companies' different goals. So, for example, we sell a platform known as Sales Hub. We also sell another platform known as Marketing Hub. We also have a Services Hub segment as well. So, to kind of put it simple, basically, if you were an organization that might be struggling with their marketing strategies, we've got a product for you. And if you're a company that basically says, hey, listen, I've really got a wonderful set of customers, but unfortunately, they don't really know us as much, or they, we could really kind of, expand our model in terms of, allowing people to know exactly what we're selling. Then we've got a product for you, and that would be Sales Hub. So how I love to explain this is through an analogy that I normally use, which is basically, I always kind of like to explain it as it's like going to the market, right? Everybody knows that a piece of fruit is good for you, right? But we have so many different fruits that you can pick from. So it's almost like that when you're working with Hub. It's really essentially what you're looking to do is to pick which fruit is good for what part of your body. As you can imagine, a banana, for example, is good for potassium, right? And then, of course, an orange is really good for your vitamin C. So it's the same idea with working for this particular product, or working for this particular company. We want to make sure that we're catering to people's different needs. And we've been quite instrumental with that. And the reason I say that is due to the next slide that I'm going to kind of talk you through. So I will also apologize in case I'm looking at two different directions. It's because I'm also looking at different visuals as well. So some of the facts that I feel like I would love to bring forth at this time is to kind of talk about what HubSpot has been doing for the last couple of years. So as you can imagine, we have about 167,000 global customers in over 120 countries. And in layman's terms, we've been selling a lot of fruit. We've been selling a lot of bananas and oranges and pears to everybody. So really glad to see the amount of customers we have. And that number is constantly increasing. That's why I put a little bit of a plus there, because we probably have about 170 or 180 at this point. Now, another thing as well is we have over 7.4 thousand employees in 11 global offices as well, which is an amazing fact for us to have as well, because if you can imagine, our motto is to help businesses to grow better. And that would be so redundant if we weren't growing ourselves. We've been this business has been going on for about 16 to 17 years at this stage, and we're constantly growing ourselves as well. So that really speaks a lot for itself. Now, and finally, to kind of close it off here as well, is to mention that we have about 475,000 inbound professionals trained and certified. So for anybody that may not know, we have some free certification tools that you could also navigate on our website. So please do go there if you're looking for some kind of certification, maybe with regards to marketing, or maybe with regards to services hubs, or maybe even just with regards to marketing as well. So there's definitely a tool there that you could learn. There's definitely a certification that you could also explore a little bit further. Now, I'm conscious I've been doing a lot more talking. Nadine is going to talk us through a bit more about, working through your CV and with regards to cover letters as well. So Nadine, you ready?
I'm ready to go. And I love the reminder, like one fruit a day keeps the doctor away. So definitely good reminder on that. So guys, where to start? Well, your story, your CV. A good CV will definitely increase your chance of getting noticed by recruiters and actually get the job that you are looking for. So now the question is, how do I even write a good CV, right? So here's a few things that are important to note. Before you do that, I want you to be sure that what roles are more suitable for you based on your experience, skills, and achievements. It's important to understand what keywords you need to use throughout your CV so that it can be relevant to the job that you're applying for. You also want to check the layout, contact, personal information, employment history, education, language, hobbies, and reference. So now, in a sense, if you want to just open there, usually one thing that I always recommend to my candidates that are looking to change or even create a new CV is to have this Gmail account that will give you free access to Google Drive and Google Documents. So here you can use some cool templates that will help you create a good and informative CV. So in terms of the layout, we would recommend to use 2 pages if possible. Then save it as a PDF with your first and last name as the file name, so it's easier to find. Then use only font size 14 to 16 for name and headlines, and we recommend size 12 for other text. And again, keep it simple. Also, feel free to bold relevant sections and use bullet points whenever it is necessary. So let's start with the contact information. So it's literally only information on how we get in touch with you. And for that, all we need as recruiters is your name, phone number, and email address. A good extra would always be putting your LinkedIn profile if you have one, but it's not mandatory. So there's no need to add your marital status, your nationality, your date of birth, or a photo, or any other private information. This is something that we recruiters also recommend to avoid any bias in the industry as well. And again, to be honest, we only need your name, phone number, and email to contact you. Then personal information. This should be just below your contact information and is essentially a short summary, so 3-4 sentences of your experience, skills, and achievements, and how they make you a good fit for the role that you're applying for. So this is a good chance to add some buzzwords such as analytical person or organized or proactive that can really sell yourself in the first few minutes of reading your profile. Then we jump into the employment history. So this is the most important part of your CV for sure. So firstly, for each job, you want to add the company name and then the location and the job title. And you should always add the start and finish dates. We usually just use month and year. There's no need to put like a specific day in that. Then you want to start with the most recent roles and work your way backwards. So you will need to add a line about the company and then use the bullet points for your main responsibilities. Adding an extra line for achievements will also help showcase your skills and experience. And I've seen that for people that apply for sales roles, for example, you can see a lot of their achievements and quantifiable achievements there as well in that part. And always try to provide as much detail, but keeping it short and simple at the same time. Then we'll jump to education. So same as the previous section start, with the same with the previous section, you want to start with your most recent education and work your way backwards. So you want to add the institution name, location, education title, and the finish date. So here you don't need to use the start date, just the finish date. And then hobbies and interests, it's a nice to have, but it's not mandatory, but it also always started a good small talk anyway. It's a nice to have in there. And then reference, I would only add a line saying reference available upon request because most of the companies would only use that at the end when they are finishing the interview process and they are giving you an offer. So that's when they want to really see the reference and check them.
Nice. Thank you so much. And I wanted to kind of highlight as well here as well. If you speak more than one language, I always do recommend just putting them there as well. You just never know like what company could be looking at you or what agency you might have previously applied to that might actually look at looking at that language proficiency and contacting you based on that. Now I've been in Ireland for almost over 18 years at this point. So I used to speak Zulu and I no longer speak it, but I remember a couple of years ago I put down that I was speaking Zulu and one of the agencies actually contacted me and they asked me if I still speak the language and I was like, no, I've lost it for the last couple couple of years. But one thing that really kind of shone through a little bit was the fact that, like I've applied for that role maybe 5-6 years ago, and they still kind of contacted me back again and said, well, listen, we're looking for a role here and we're looking for somebody that is actually proficient in speaking Zulu, or it could be Lingala, it could be Yoruba. So I definitely recommend having that language if you definitely have it, and have it in your section as well, because you just never know.
For
Okay.
sure.
we'll move on. Unless maybe was there something, so we've talked about layouts here and how to write your CVs. And then do you want to maybe talk them through kind of writing your cover letter as well?
Yeah, definitely. So look, in today's job market, many companies, including HubSpot, no longer require cover letters as a mandatory component of their application process, which is great. And to be honest, as a recruiter, I believe that cover letters can hold significant value, especially when you're changing areas, but it's not mandatory for other situations.
Mm.
So for example, when moving from a sales role to a customer success position, sales is all about hunting, right? And closing new deals, where customer success really focus on the nurturing aspects, and nurturing clients and building those long-term relationships and provide that strategic advice. So I hire for customer success roles, for example, and when I see a sales CV kind of, and there's only like sales skills, it's important for me to understand the motivations of this transition and the skills or the projects that can really demonstrate the value you're going to bring into this position. So a cover letter is always a nice to have. Obviously, it wouldn't mean that I would discard this person, but it will give me a better idea exactly what they're looking for and how they have thought through this, and they really want to make that transition as well. So yeah, so look, what I usually asked here on the cover letter, or what I feel like it would definitely be the best strategy to use, would be starting with a strong opener. So begin with a brief introduction, mentioning your current role and your intention to transition into to the new role. In this case, would be customer success. Explain your motivation. So clearly state what you want to change, why you want to change your careers, highlight what attracts you to the role that you're applying for and how it aligns with your passions and goals. And then showcase transferable skills. So emphasize the skills that your current background have and that are relevant to the new role that you're applying. So for example, if you're coming from sales to customer success, that could be communication, could be relationship building, problem solving, empathy, all this stuff. And then provide impactful examples. So give concrete examples of situations where you've demonstrated the skills, and maybe choose the most impactful projects that you were part of, and always talk about the results at the end. It's very important that you show the recruiter what results you got from it and what was the real impact there. The research on the company. So mention why you're interested in this specific company and how your skills and value align with their mission and culture. Really show the enthusiasm for the role and the company, and explain how your background makes you a valuable asset for this team. And then conclude strongly. So summarize your key points and express your eagerness for an interview. Thank the reader for their time and consideration. And yeah, keep it concise. This should be a one-page kind of thing for sure. So if you're focusing on changing careers or trying a new thing, or maybe you're not in the market yet and this is your first job, I would always kind of advise on that. And if you can just pick like 5 top jobs and do like a really tailored cover letter, then that's perfect.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we had a question here from Kelechi, and I normally would say we'd wait till the end, but because we are at the CV section, you mentioned what about skills and competencies? Where can you include them? So there's a few ways you can do this, okay, Kelechi. So what I normally kind of do, if I'm writing, say, my first experience, and I'm telling them I've worked maybe in HubSpot, in Dublin, and my job title is as a recruiter, I'll put a few kind of bullet points to basically explain what I've done in the past, okay, or what I'm currently working on at the moment. And then at the very bottom here, what I might do, Kelechi, is I would probably kind of leave it like this, and I just write skills here, and then I'll probably write like communication, etc., etc. So I can kind of do that at the bottom. And there's the same thing here as well. So if I want to kind of do the same thing, I'll talk about the company that I've worked for. Apologies, I'm actually after messing that up a little bit. But what I'll do is I'll go back again, and I'll just write skills here, and I'll just maybe talk about interpersonal or whatever is key. And if you want to maybe talk about projects you've worked on in the middle as well, you can definitely do that. But like Nadine just said there, just try to keep it as concise as possible, because what would happen is that in an interview situation, I will see those skills, and then I might want to maybe dig a little bit deeper on, and I'll call you and say, hey, listen, I've noticed you put communication as a skill here. Why is this important in your CV? Or why is this, a key thing that you decided to put on? And then we can kind of talk a little bit deeper there with regards to what you've mentioned as well. So sometimes I feel like you feel like you want to put everything in one go, and that could also not be the best way possible. possible. A good recruiter would usually come to you and actually say, hey, listen, I know you should maybe put 1 or 2 bullet points. Let's talk about that a little bit further. So fear not, in case you're wondering how that usually works as well. Conscious of time, but I do want to get a chance for us to speak on where to find different types of job opportunities. Okay, so I've listed a good number of key areas that I know have been quite instrumental in helping me when I was looking for a job for sure. So I've included a few ones here. And the biggest one, or the number one priority that I always kind of focus on a little bit more, is with regards to some job boards that have been really instrumental in my application. So LinkedIn is usually my number one go-to place as a job board. And that's because LinkedIn is so much more than a place where you're looking for jobs. It's also a place where you can actually interact with candidates as well as recruiters, as well as managers, as well as directors, and so on and so forth. And it's a place where you could it's basically Facebook for employees and employers and everybody else included that is looking for a job. So LinkedIn, and we'll explore LinkedIn a little bit further as well. But I always love talking about LinkedIn because I know that if I had a euro for a place where I saw somebody getting a job and they have that little tagline that says LinkedIn helped me get this job, it just goes to show what a powerful platform it is. Indeed and Monster and Irish Jobs as well are really good, right? So what I would always recommend here is make sure to create your profile, and this gives you the ability to have recruiters to find you, and it also ensures that you make connections as well, especially when you're on LinkedIn as well. Now, the second part that I like to talk about a lot more, especially if you're looking for jobs, and this is such an underrated way to look for jobs, is to actually go to company career pages and create some alerts as well. So for example, if you're looking to work for HubSpot for whatever reason, maybe we have a role that is really impactful for yourself at the moment, or a role that is really interesting, what I recommend always doing is just go to HubSpot and then maybe scroll all the way to the bottom and look at careers at HubSpot. And that will give you a list of roles that we do have at the moment, but it also gives you some insights into the jobs that we don't have. So I always say, make sure to create an alert. So you might go to HubSpot and say, well, I'm looking for this job. This job doesn't seem to be available at the moment, but I'm going to put an alert in case that job does come back. And I think that that would be a key and an ideal thing to do, because what will happen is that if that role becomes live again, and especially if it's a role that we've looked after before, you'll get an email basically letting you know that that role is live if you're interested in applying for it. So I hope that is quite helpful. Now, my next thing to do if I am looking for jobs is to utilize recruitment agencies, guys, especially if you're looking at recruiters on LinkedIn. And we will talk a little bit behind how to look for recruiters on LinkedIn. Agencies are probably one of your best places to go. And I've highlighted a few good agencies that I know we've worked with in the past as well. And I've actually worked directly with in the past myself. So I've included CPL, I've included Hayes, Sigma, Morgan McKinley. And what good agencies do, or what recruiters do in agencies, is that they actually would give you an avenue to be able to tailor your consultation. So they'll actually consult with you and see what your CV says at the moment. And they can kind of have a consultation period where they can actually basically try and assess your profile a little bit better and give you some insight as to what roles they think would be suitable for you. And because of that as well, now you've given them your CV is on their files. If there's ever a job that they're looking to maybe hire for, you'd probably be one of the people that would be looking to contact first as well. Finally, I've also included job fairs. I think job fairs are really, really good and also underrated as well. Job fairs are so good for in-person events and opportunities to network with other job seekers and companies as well. So some of the job fairs that I know we've actually been invited to are the likes of Grad Ireland. There's also Job Expo as well, which is located at the convention center. Grad Ireland is actually in the RDS. And we've also been in situations like the Dublin Tech Summit as well, which is also in the RDS. So I highly recommend looking into job fairs quite a lot more as well. Okay, is there something else? So how to expand your professional network? Nadine, would you like to take over from here?
Sure. So look, this is a good one to increase your possibilities of chatting directly with someone from the company that you're applying for. So we definitely recommend LinkedIn for this one, because LinkedIn can be good for you to connect with as many people as you can, follow company pages, check relevant events, get some tips on career counseling, especially good for students or graduates. And if you're comfortable, you can create a good personal brand and kind of people getting to know you a little bit more on a weekly basis. So Innocent, if you want to just show their LinkedIn.
100%. Yep. So we're on Recruiter. Yep.
Yeah, so you can filter. Do you want to go through it or?
Yeah, I can do it. So
Perfect.
say for example, like I mentioned before, especially in the previous slide, you're looking for a recruiter, or maybe you're looking to speak with a recruiter from a different company. What I normally do is I go to the search field and I type in recruiter, and it'll give you a list of recruiters at the bottom, but this is not really what you're looking for at the moment. Okay, so what you want to find yourself doing is maybe starting to filter out a little bit. So what I normally do is kind of filter against jobs. Sometimes if I want to do that, but at this point I'm not going to because it's actually going to show me some recruiter roles. But what I will do is I would put it down to people. So that's going to load for a second. Now it's giving me a good list of recruiters that are across Ireland at the moment. So I want to filter that down a little bit more. So how about I go into what their current company is at the moment? So I'm going to go to HubSpot. And I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to say show results. What's this doing? So this is now showing me majority of the recruiters that we have here at HubSpot. If I want to go a little bit further, I can just go into location and then I'm going to type down Ireland and then I'm going to say show results. Now, what this has actually done now is that I've basically told LinkedIn that I'm looking for a recruiter. A recruiter has to be a person, so that's why we filtered against people. The recruiter lives in Ireland at the very moment, and the recruiter currently works at HubSpot. Now you have an unfiltered list of recruiters. So as you can imagine, there's a recruiting team lead here at HubSpot. There is a technical recruiter at HubSpot. So if you're somebody that is looking for technical roles or looking for IT roles, this would be the person you want to speak with. You want to speak with Jessica. And then there's also an executive recruiter here. So if you're somebody that maybe has taken up an executive role or maybe a leadership role, then surely Stephen is the person that you want to speak with. So what you'd be looking to do here is to go onto Stephen's account and maybe see if you can create a connection and basically say something along the lines of, hey, I saw that you're a technical recruiter at HubSpot. Really, really interested in having a chat with you. I've also seen in your website that you have some IT roles that would be quite that I feel like I would be a good fit for. And I'm just hoping we can have a chat if you have a minute or two in the next coming days. And usually that's kind of how you want to angle your conversation with a recruiter to kind of make it a little bit more informative. So LinkedIn can really be good for you to make that connection with as many people as you can. It allows you to be able to follow company pages. You could also check some relevant events as well. And you could also get some tips and career counseling for students and graduates as well. And if you are comfortable, you can start creating a good personal brand for yourself as well. And that feel like that's really what you should be doing on LinkedIn a lot more. So yeah, what I will do then, since I've already been taking you through this, is to kind of talk you through LinkedIn a little bit and basically showing you some filters. But before that, I'm curious to kind of go back and maybe talk you through some of the things that you want to do, especially if you want to work with a recruiter. So I think I've already touched on this a little bit more, but the things that you want to check if you're looking at a recruiter, like I mentioned before, is the kind of department that they're basically hiring for. So I've put something there on my side as well. So I've basically put down that I'm an EMEA sales recruiter at HubSpot. So you already know what department I work for. And then you can also check how long I've been in the role as well. I know I've already told you I'm here nearly 2 years, but there's also an ability to be able to do that if you look at their profile as well. You want to check an activity log as well. I always recommend checking if this particular recruiter you want to speak with is a regular poster, right? So let me see if I can kind of go through that a little bit further now. So for example, this is my LinkedIn page. If I scroll to the bottom here, you can check my activity log. I've basically posted something in about 6 days. So that's as active as I can. Before that, I did something 2 weeks ago. I actually did a few things 2 weeks ago. So there's a strong indication that if you write to me on LinkedIn, I am 100% or I'm at least 90% going to see your message and I'm going to reply you as well. So definitely recommend looking at an activity log because I feel like one thing I get a lot from candidates is, oh, I email so many recruiters and they never get back to me. I do this with so many recruiters and they never get back to me. And I'm always kind of thinking to tell them, well, when's the last time they actually made a post themselves? And they're like, oh yeah, like they made a post about a year ago or 2 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, that person is not a regular LinkedIn user, right? So you want to make sure that you're talking to recruiters that are usually on LinkedIn most of the time as well. Hopefully that is a little bit helpful. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, you want to make sure that you're connecting with a personal note as well. You're asking for a quick chat. And then, of course, I always recommend don't just have one connection with one recruiter that works at HubSpot or works in any other company. Make sure that you're speaking to more than one recruiter at the same time. You could say, hey, listen, try to talk to Innocent, but unfortunately, you haven't been able to get a response from him. I'm wondering maybe if I could have a bit of a chat with yourself. And then that would be a way of kind of trying to get in to make conversations. There's definitely a little bit of a strategy, and we do the same as well, just so you know, especially if we're looking for candidates, we don't just speak to one candidate that we're looking to hire for. We speak to so many candidates, and the hope is that at least one or two of those candidates would get back to us and actually have a chat with us again. So it's more of a give and take type of thing as well when we're kind of looking at it that way. Okay, so what to do after, let's say, for example, you've had a chance to speak with a recruiter. The recruiter likes you, and maybe they're looking to see if they could have an interview with you, and they do have an interview with you at some point, maybe because you found a role that you're quite interested in. So these are the two things that I always say you should do after the call, right? Definitely seek some feedback after your first phone conversation or an interview as well. Check if there's anything they find concerning about your profile, or if maybe if they've had any concerns with any of your answers during an interview as well. Find out if there's any areas that you could improve on, and if there's something you should focus on in your next interview. So if you're lucky and you're actually having a chat with myself during an interview, what I normally do is tell a candidate, hey, listen, this is going to be a 30-minute interview, but I want to be frank and come up front and say we're going to talk for the first 20 minutes, and then the last 10 minutes, we'll split that into two. So we'll split the first 5 minutes into talking about any questions that you might have, and then I'll take the last 5 minutes to actually give you some feedback and to let you know what you did that was good, what you did that I feel like you might need a little bit more of an improvement on, and then I would kind of advise if I am going to go forward with you, or maybe if I need to have a chat with the hiring manager to see if maybe we'll move you forward or not. And then usually then I would kind of give you some extra feedback on whether we're passing you forward to the next interview stage or not as well. So make sure to definitely keep in touch during each stage of the interview as well, especially towards the final stage as well. If a recruiter offers a prep call, take it, and ask. And of course, if they don't actually offer that as well, ask for it as well. Different hiring managers like to see different things as well. So keep that in mind and make sure that you ask the recruiter how to prep accordingly as well. So definitely recommend being able to kind of talk through that a little bit more. Now, the next slide, we're really going to talk about the recruitment process. Nadine, I wonder if you have something for them. Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Typical on mute. No, those are very good tips. And usually people say, like, what's the usual feedback you get as a recruiter? And for me, it's mostly like communication, being more organized on that, walking through your experience, be more detailed and show like more relevant, talk about the relevant experience for that role that you're applying for, and be ready with a few questions on like how you organize your day to day, how do you deal with clients, whatever is more suitable for that role. So yeah, but we'll touch on a few tips anyway in a second. So I'm going to touch here on the recruitment process. So I really want to be clear. First, every company works different and every role can have a different interview process, but I'll tell you more about the HubSpot interview process here. So the first step, the recruiter will advertise their job on the company page, plus some job boards, as Innocent mentioned there, and they will review all applications from there. They can also use LinkedIn to source new candidates, and that's why it's important to have a LinkedIn profile, because most of us recruiters actually use this platform to search for suitable candidates. So the same way Innocent filter there for you to search for a recruiter, we do the exact same for candidates, but we would filter by skills and experience and location sometimes. So it's nice that we send them this message, basically send them an email, and if they are interested and if they want to have a chat, we'll jump quickly into the phone interview. Then the second step there is the initial screening interview, or as we call it here at HubSpot, the recruiter phone interview. So the purpose for this interview is to further access your experience and qualifications. You'll be asked questions about your work experience, main responsibilities, what is your understanding of the role you just applied, and how will you be successful in this role. We'll also ask questions on your company product knowledge and maybe a few behavioral questions. So example, tell me about a time you had a difficult client, or how did you approach this type of situation? So here is also a good opportunity for you to ask any questions you have at the end of the interview. And you definitely can and should ask the recruiter about salary budget, career progression, benefits, when would you like to hire this person, how big is the team, or any other questions you have. You have that liberty, and you should definitely use it at the end, because you also want to understand if this is the right job for you and if it aligns with your expectations. Then the third step, I would say this is very specific to HubSpot. It's a manager interview. So here the interviewer will focus on job-specific questions that requires the candidate to provide detailed answers and showcase their abilities to perform. They can also complete this call with a role play, an assessment, or even a presentation, depending on the role that you're applying for. In other companies, what I've seen is that this stage can be conducted by members of the team, actually, as well, not only the manager of the team. Then the last step, final round, again, very specific to HubSpot and actually more specific to my roles as customer success. So in customer success, our final round is usually 3 interviews, and they are 30 minutes each. And each of them focus on 2 to 3 top skills that are the main skills of the role itself. And you are asked about like 4 to 5 behavioral or situational questions, which are very job specific as well. But what I've seen in other companies, what I experienced as well during my job seeking journey, is that this could actually be just one call with HR, where they ask questions more around what you value and what kind of value can you bring into the company, and also understand in both parties if it's a fit for the company and the team or not. So once all the interviews are done, and if you have been successful, you should receive a call or an email offering you the role. Here is where they ask for the reference there and other information that they need to finalize your contract.
Yep, brilliant. Thank you so much. So I think we want to talk a little bit behind the recruitment process. You want to take them through that a little bit?
Yeah.
Just because obviously I know HubSpot and a few new tech companies as well are very particular with regards to answering using the STAR method. So do you want to talk them through that a bit?
Yeah, so definitely. So the main interview tips that I usually share with my candidates would be research about the company and role, highlight your top skills that match the role when going through your experience, use the STAR method to provide detailed examples with the impactful results. And the STAR method I actually added there. It stands for situation that you were involved in, the task you were responsible for, actions you took to solve the situation, and results of the actions you took. So basically, this is a very used structure for tech companies, especially. They just want a more clear and structured, organized answer for those behavioral questions. So tell me about a difficult client. They really just want to see like step by step what happened. So this is the best method for it. I actually learned from it from YouTube as well, or from blogs. So you can definitely search. This will definitely bring you successful interviews. Then I want you to focus on the time that you do your answers as well. It's very important that if you only have 30 minutes for this interview, you should stay within the 30 minutes. So usually for me, sometimes people spend like 10 minutes talking about their CV, which is fair enough because sometimes they have a very long career and a very long CV there. But what I want you to focus really is which experience are more relevant to the role that you're applying for. How does it align? And that's what you should focus your communication on. So this type of answer should just take around 2-3 minutes. So timing your answers does really help before going to an interview, because then you'll know that you'll have plenty of time for all the questions that they want to ask. And also make sure you ask some important questions to the interviewer at the end. This is really your chance to get to know the company and the team a bit better, and also, again, understand if this is the role for you. I think this is very important as well. People sometimes come into the interviews and they feel very nervous because they feel like it's all up to us. It's in our hands to decide if they want to move or not. But I think you should also do it for you. So to understand if this is the right fit for you, if this is the right role for you, and that you can do by asking the questions at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've had a candidate say, look, are you concerned about my profile? And I'd actually be honest and be like, hey, listen, this is my concern, and especially with what Nadine mentioned with timing your answers as well. I feel like sometimes we want to make sure we're putting the whole blank page and saying everything so we can fill the canvas. And sometimes what might help is just taking 2 or 3 minutes explaining what your role, what roles you've done, and then just say, hey, listen, I'm very conscious that, we're short for time. Have I answered this question correctly? Or do you want me to maybe go ahead and ask some other, or do you want me to go ahead and maybe give you more context? And that's really, really helpful to do in the process as well. So, and this also shows the interviewer that you're actually engaging with them. So I recommend it highly. Okay, so let's take some time to do a little bit of recap. Okay, so what I want to do is focus on some tips and tricks again. So what I will do is just speak a little bit on half of these, and then Nadine can take it over as well. So one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we're covering here is that make sure that you're actually highlighting the relevant skills when you're speaking with interviewers, and make sure that you're preparing for all of your interviews in the same way as well. I know that sometimes we like to cater our CVs to different jobs, and that's fine. You can't have just one CV, but when you're actually preparing, you want to prepare the same way. You want to make sure you're doing you're doing your checks on the company you're going for, you're doing your checks on the role you're going for as well, and you're preparing accordingly. You've got your questions as well. And you also then want to make sure that you're doing your research on average salary and company reviews as well. Like I've mentioned this before, you need to be able, like we do get to a situation as recruiters where we want to know what your salary expectations are. And honestly, like the best answers we've received come from the people that have actually done their research on the market value salary out there as well. And it just shows that you know what you're worth as well. And you'll get to know very quickly with HubSpot. We're quite transparent with salaries, and we're quite transparent with talking through what we think would be a good fit for yourself as well, salary wise. And then finally, you really want to keep track of all your applications. Okay, so I can't tell you how many times I've called candidates and I'm like, hey, my name is Innocent from HubSpot, and I'm calling on behalf of this role. And they're like, I'm sorry, which company is this? And I'm sorry, what role were you looking for, or what role did you want to interview me for? And it just shows that they haven't done their preparation properly, and they really haven't taken the time to actually know who they're speaking to today as well, despite the fact that we could have sent like communications, like an email, and then of course arrange a phone call as well. So you want to make sure that you know which company is calling you, unless of course it's like an agency company, maybe that's cold calling you. That would be a different avenue altogether. But yeah, so that's all I have to say from my side. Nadine, do you want to take it over for the last couple of minutes?
Yeah, definitely. And just on that note as well, Edison, I think like you just said, like HubSpot, we pretty much like send you an email a few days before you submit your availability. So there's like a lot to go through, and you can really think, okay, this is HubSpot. I know I'm going to have an interview for this. I know which role is it, so you can have the time for that. With agencies, it's cold calling, but I wouldn't be afraid to say, oh, I'm actually busy right now. Can we chat in like 10 minutes? Maybe you can give me another call in 10 minutes. This will give you time to actually bring in the job spec, or bring on what company whatever company they're calling for. You can bring just the details very quickly and then be ready for it. Because sometimes what happened, I used to work in agency, and I would get people just on their way to lunch or on their way home. They have other things in their mind, and the call wouldn't go well because of that. So don't be afraid to also say, can you give me 10 minutes and call me again on this? I'm actually just doing something right now. It'll give you time to prepare. So yeah, so research on the company and role, like that's definitely important. That's something that we want to see as well. We want to see your passion, your enthusiasm for the product or the company, and understand exactly your motivations to join HubSpot or even the role that you're applying for. Then tweak your CV according to different roles. I'm talking about like small tweaks. Like I said, if you're applying for completely different roles, it could be sales, it could be customer success, it could be technical or customer support. Try to just add whatever it's on your personal information, those 3 or 4 sentences. Maybe tweak it just a little bit to what the role entails and what needs it. So when we read it, it's relevant to the role that we are looking for. Then ask the relevant questions. Once again, I can't stress this enough. You should definitely ask the questions you need to understand exactly what you want to do and if this is the right fit for you. I know someone asked there on the chat what kind of questions about the company that are applicable for an interview. I always recommend my candidates to actually go for the challenging questions. I love to see those. So instead of the why do you like to work at HubSpot, or how long have you been there? So this would be like more general. I usually tell them to just challenge actually the manager or even the recruiter on the phone interview. And that could be questions like, what's your plan for next quarter? What are you solving for with this position? Why are we hiring? Is this a backfill or is this a new headcount? How is the career progression in this role? What exactly roles? What's the average that takes someone to build up their career in HubSpot? So those type of questions is always nice because the managers love to talk about it as well. They love to talk about their success and their team's success, and they are pretty kind of honest on those as well. So yeah, so then ask those kind of questions and then give yourself enough prep time for the interviews for sure. Like this is, if you want to be successful in anything, you need to prepare for it. I always say, try to see it as an exam or a test on it, and just really do your homework and then prepare for the interview. I remember that I think I applied 3 times to HubSpot. One, I got rejected on the CV. One, I got a phone interview, and I got rejected after the recruiter phone interview. And then at the 3rd time, I actually got the job. But literally, the difference was I actually prepared for it. Because the first time I was like, yeah, I want to have the call today. Yeah, definitely want to speak with HubSpot now. I'm ready. Like, I'm just going to speak about my role. So I know everything I need to know about my role, ready to go. And obviously, I did a really bad job on it. So homework definitely is essential here. And don't worry that you won't lose the opportunity. Don't feel like if you ask for 1 more day or 2 more days, you're going to lose the opportunity for someone else. No, actually, you're going to probably value from having the time to prepare, because then you definitely know you've done your best, and this could bring you successful throughout the interview process. So that will be my last tip. And ready for any other questions you might have here.
Speaking of questions, thank you so much. This is your question time. So while we're preparing for anybody to type down their questions, and maybe you want to come off mute in a second, just to address kind of what Svetlana said there, as well as what kind of questions about the company is applicable for an interview. I would say questions that I know Nadine has touched on this, but I would definitely also say questions that you're not sure about. Right. So I think sometimes what happens in these, companies, you read a lot about what the company's doing, what the company has been doing, and, how great a company is. And it's like, well, if you're not too sure then about some of the statements that they've made, I would say, well, I'd like to get a little bit more clarity on that. Some companies that I've definitely seen in the past have, talked a lot about we're a very diverse company. We're really inclusive, and we want to make sure that we incorporate belonging in a company as well. And one of the questions I would normally ask in that situation is, what have you done to showcase your diversity? What programs have you guys been doing, and how have you made sure that you're working a diverse or working with a diverse company with diverse candidates or employees as well. So that's definitely some of the questions that I would normally ask. Another question that's coming up here from Sergey is, when is it better to ask about remunerations for the position? And I strongly recommend the first stage. So your recruiter phone stage with a recruiter. That's where I would normally start, talking about remunerations, or, even negotiating and making sure that you know what you're worth. And the reason why I always say start here is because a lot of these interview processes are quite lengthy. Don't wait until the end before you can start negotiating your salary. Talk about it at the start, because a recruiter will, very well tell you, either they'll say, I need to go back and see if that's even possible for us to do, or they could say, I'm sorry, this is the salary that we have on offer at the moment, and unfortunately, it's actually not negotiable. So I will always recommend at the start. Nadine, I'm not too sure if you have a separate opinion to myself, but I'm really curious to hear from you.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think I've told you this before. My second job here in Ireland, I only found out about my salary on the first month we got paid. So I wasn't even sure what that meant. Even on the contract, I wasn't sure what actually that meant. Actually, I'm gonna share here just a link that I used as well. Like, if you want to see how much you're going to get after tax. I didn't even know there was taxes. Well, I was very young, to be honest, but I didn't know how much they were taxed in this country. So actually my move from the job that I had to this job didn't make any difference on my salary. And that's because I didn't ask the question. So I wasn't even sure. I used this link to kind of find out exactly how you're going to get after tax, how much you're going to take home. So if you want to do that as well, you can have an idea how much you want to ask, because I kind of went to the conversation. I was like, yeah, no, it should be around this amount. And they're like, yeah, it should be fine. And I was thinking a different kind of payout. I was very happy. I thought I had an increase, and after all, it was just the same amount of money afterwards. So definitely encourage you to do the salary. At least I wouldn't say negotiation straight away, but at least knowing exactly what's their budget. They should be transparent about it anyway, and then you can just say your value and see what you can work from there. And then negotiations, I usually get them at offer stage as well. Not too high, but like they already know the budget, and they could be like, look, I think I've done a really good job at the interviews. I think going through the interview process, I actually have the good experience for this. I would like to negotiate for this amount. Can you come back to me? As recruiters, I think we always for the candidate, to be honest. So I would definitely go back straight to the manager, straight to the finance team, and try to understand, can we do more? And if it was really relevant, if they were really good at the interview, can we negotiate a little bit more? But yeah, usually candidates are happy with that type of approach. So yeah, definitely I would always recommend checking in. Because like Innocent said, you don't want to be wasting your time for like 3 months interviews sometimes with a few companies, and it's not even the salary that you're looking for.
Yeah, 100%. One question, I don't know, do we have any other questions from the crowd?
I'm gonna actually pause the recording just in case someone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question here.